Blender is really hard, you guys, and this is my attempt at making the easiest Blender tutorial ever. Wow, that was really epic with the echo and everything. I made a whole video about how I finally managed to learn Blender, at least parts of it, by focusing on just some of the core features, and how a lot of the tutorials out there just kind of lost me when I was starting out because they covered way too much ground. Blender can't get the best of me. I was not ready. I'm fine, by the way. Thanks for asking. My recovery, it's going well. So while Blender does a lot of different things from realistic textures and rendering to animation and sculpting, I'm gonna start with 3D modeling today because we can accomplish a lot with just a handful of tools. Also, it's kind of fun. More than kind of fun, it's really fun. Once you get a little comfortable in Blender, it's like Legos for adults. I should know, I'm a fully grown adult. Let's imagine you've never opened Blender before. This is your first time. Wait, what? No, that's not a cube. You don't see a cube. You're not ready for cube. You're ready for mouse. Mouse. The scroll wheel is super important in Blender. Pressing it down will let you pivot around in 3D space, and then holding down the shift key while clicking that middle mouse button is gonna let you pan around from side to side. Also, I wrote down all of the shortcut keys we're gonna be using today into one worksheet, so they're all right there. This is not all the shortcuts in Blender. If you look those up, those are crazy. Those are wild. You can't handle that. I can't handle that. This is just the shortcuts we are using today, the core ones that we need for this tutorial, just to keep it simple. You can download that in the free section of my website, bradsartschool.com. Oh yeah, I also added the Blender source file up there too if you want to play around with that. It's right under my Learn to Draw in 60 Days course. You should also check that out. Save that for the end! Right. Save the promotion for later. Got it. Okay, now y'all are ready for cube. We are gonna start with this shape, so I'm gonna click on it to select it. And I'm gonna hit the letter S for scale, and that's gonna let us grow this thing or shrink this thing down. Now this is a 3D space, so we have axes. This red line here represents the x-axis. The green line represents the y-axis. And you can't see it, but there's a z-axis as well for up and down. So for example, I want this only to grow on the y-axis. So I'm gonna hit the letter Y, and we're just gonna grow this thing out a little bit. And I'm going to click. Now I want this to be narrower, so I'm gonna hit S for scale again, this time on the z-axis, hit the letter Z, and I'm gonna scale that down till it looks about right. That looks good. Maybe I scale it again on my y-axis to make it a little bit shorter, but that looks about right. I think that's what I'm going for. Now this is a good time to talk about modes. Let's look up here in the upper left-hand corner. We have the object mode, but if I use this drop down, we have more. We're gonna be bouncing between object mode and edit mode a lot. So for an object mode, I'm gonna use one color on the screen. If we're in edit mode, I'm gonna use another color. So go ahead and click on edit mode. Edit mode lets you edit points. So I can click on any point here, and then I'm gonna grab my move tool on the left-hand side, and then I could just drag this point wherever I want it to be. Just doing this is gonna really let us modify all of our shapes. I wanna start by adding more points to this shape. So I need to select our entire shape. I'm gonna hit the letter A for all to do that. Then I'm gonna hit Control R for something called a loop cut. And you can see here, this yellow line is where I'm going to cut this shape in half. If I use my mouse scroll wheel to scroll up, I could actually add as many cuts as I want to this shape. I only need 2, so that's what I'm gonna go for now. I click to do my loop cut, and then I can move my mouse back and forth to decide where I want these shapes to go. I actually want this to be a little wider in the middle than it is right now. I need to see all the points of my object better, so let's look in the upper right-hand corner here. There's 4 little icons here. Right now, I'm in solid mode. The icon next to it is wireframe mode. I'm gonna click that, and now I can see the points behind my object. So what I can do with my mouse is I can select the points I want. If I want more than one point, I hold down Shift, and I click that point as well, and I can grab these 4 points, and I can move them back, kind of like that. In fact, while I'm here, I'm just gonna click and drag on these points, and I'm just gonna drag them back a little bit as well. Kind of like that. That looks pretty good. Now next to edit mode, there's an option to grab a whole line. So I can click on a line, and I'm gonna grab that entire thing, which will save you time from having to just grab one point at a time. Or you can grab planes. This is really helpful. So I can grab just the plane that I'm looking to modify. Now what I want to do is I want to take this plane and I want to like extrude it upwards. There's a shortcut for that, the letter E. And with that, I just pull my mouse up and there we go. I have added kind of the top section of our car here. So I'm going to grab these 2 front points and I'm going to use this little green arrow to just drag that back on our Y-axis to kind of make my front windshield tilt back just a little bit. I'm gonna scroll around and I'm gonna do the same thing on the back. Probably not gonna do it quite as much as the front, but just give it a little bit of an angle. I'm gonna go back to my solid mode. I'm gonna rotate around because the next thing I wanna do is I wanna add a windshield to this. So let's select that front face and we're gonna use something called inset, letter I. And now when I move my mouse in, it's going to inset that shape. And then I could use the letter E, extrude, to go in to inset our windshield. I don't like it. How do we not do that? All right, so this is where Blender gets a little technical. We gotta explain some stuff. So if we have a boring cube and we inset it, it works perfectly. The tops and the sides are the same width. So when we extrude, it just works. But then when I hit S to scale it, say I scale it on the X axis, what happens? It gets kind of stretchy on the sides. So what we need to do is we need to hit tab to go back to our object mode. And we have to apply the transform. Hit Control A for apply. And I'm just gonna apply all of the transforms. This kind of resets the shape a little bit. Then I can hit tab to go back to my edit mode. And then let's take a look at what happens to this when we hit I for inset. Oh, look at that, it's perfect. Now extrude. It extrudes exactly the way we want it. All of those sides are equal. And that's what we need to do with our car body as well. So let's hit tab to go to object mode, Control A to apply our transforms, and we're gonna apply all transforms. We should be good now. So I'm gonna hit tab to go back to edit mode, gonna make sure that windshield is selected. I for inset, and then I'm just gonna scale it in just a tiny bit. Oh, that is perfect. Hit E for extrude, and I'm just gonna pull it in a little bit. I love it. That's good. That's good. Now I can select this side, do the same thing. I for inset. I'm just gonna try to make it the same size as the other one. E for extrude, I'm just gonna try to pull it in a little bit like the other one. Gonna rotate around, grab this. I, scale it in. E, just gonna push that in a little bit. One more, guys. Select it. I for inset, E for extrude, and there we go. We got our car windshields set and looking pretty decent right there. Okay, I'm happy with that. So with our base car in place, it's time to add some wheels. So we're gonna leave edit mode with a tab back to object mode. And we're gonna add a cylinder, which is going to become our tire. So Shift A for add, and we can add a whole bunch of stuff here. But what I'm looking for is mesh. And in mesh, we have cubes, circles, cylinders, all sorts of stuff. So let's grab that cylinder. I'm just gonna grab this little red arrow on that doohickey and move it on out. And then I'm gonna scale it because it's too big. We don't need it that big. We just need a tire size. And then I'm also gonna scale it and hit Z on my Z axis so I can also make it about the width of a tire too. Now we're not done with this. I mean, I guess we could be, but I wanna add a little bit more detail to that tire. So let's go ahead and do that by hitting tab to go into edit mode. I'm gonna click on that front face to select it. I'm gonna hit the letter I for inset again, and we're gonna move in, that looks about right. And then we're gonna hit E for extrude, and we're just gonna pull it in a little bit. Then we're gonna hit I for inset again. We're gonna kind of move it in, that looks about right. E for extrude, and I'm gonna pull it up a little bit, up and out, just to give it a little texture. And there we go. I think for now, that's gonna work for the wheel that I wanna create. So since that wheel is done, we're gonna go back to object mode with a tab, and now I need to rotate this thing. The letter R rotates, but this is not gonna work well. Like getting this tire lined up, I mean, you could make it look like it's in the right angle, but once you move around, it is totally not gonna be at the proper angle. So let's undo that. Now our gizmo up here at the top is going to let us see just like a side view of the car or a top view of the car. I want a front view of the car. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to hit the letter R, and when I rotate, it's only going to rotate on that one axis, which makes my life a whole lot easier. Now, it's still kind of hard to get it perfectly lined up, so what I could do is hold down the control key, so it's going to kind of click in little like 5-degree increments. That looks about right. And there we go. It looks like our tire is kind of looking like it's in the right spot. If we want to double check our work, let's go look at this right-hand panel. A lot of stuff over here. It can get overwhelming, I get it. But don't panic. I'm not panicking. You don't see me panicking. So at the top, what we have here is our collections. These kind of work like layers in a drawing app. Each shape you draw will be located here. So we have our cylinder, and if I wanted to, I could double click on it, and I could just say, this is a wheel. I'm gonna rename it that. Our cube is our car body. You don't have to do that, but it's a nice way to keep this clean. So with our wheel selected, I'm gonna look at the next section of our sidebar, which has all of these little icons. There's a lot of little icons here, but we want this orange one called Object Properties. In here, I can see rotation. It's already set at 90 degrees because I rotated it, but if you just want to go in here and type in 90, that might be a way to save you time. So let's position this tire in a place that looks like a place a tire would go on a car. So I'm just going to move it here, and then I'll rotate it around. Okay, that's too high. Let's move it down. I kind of want it to be halfway. I gotta move it forward a little bit. So that looks like where the wheel would go. But here's the problem with this. I want some space around the tire, right? That's kind of how cars are. So let's cut a shape out of our main car here. Let's move this tire out of the way. That'll make our lives easier. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a cylinder, and then we're gonna take that cylinder and we're gonna cut it out of where the wheel will go in our car shape. Okay, follow me on this. Yeah, we got this. Don't panic, it's easy. You just gotta do it once or twice. Shift A to add a shape. We're gonna go to mesh, and then we're going to go to cylinder. I'm gonna go ahead and drag that out of there. I'm also gonna scale it down to about the size I need. I might scale it again. We need to rotate it. I already know what I'm doing, so I'm just gonna go to my y-axis, type 90, and hit enter to rotate it. Now what I want is a side view of this car, so I can actually like line up all of these different things. My cylinder and my wheel, I want them to kind of line up a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And now I can see this nice side view, and it's gonna let me move this cylinder over, and I can see, yeah, that kind of looks okay, but I need to move it down. I'm gonna move it a little bit over. Maybe it's a little too big, so I hit S to scale down that a little bit. That looks about right to me. Okay, let's see how that's looking. Cool. And now I'm gonna move this into the center of the car. I'm gonna hit S for scale again, but we're just gonna scale it on the X-axis so that it spans the entire width of the car. This is the shape we're gonna cut out of the car. Okay, you guys ready for this? I think you're ready for this. I'm ready for this, because this is where Blender gets really exciting. We are gonna use modifiers. See this little wrench on the right-hand side? That is modifiers. We're gonna click it. I'm gonna select my car, and we're gonna add a modifier to our car. And what this lets us do is all sorts of fancy things. After clicking add modifier, I have generate, and what we're looking for right now is something called Boolean. It's the third one from the top. Once you add your modifier, it's gonna have a whole bunch of stuff over here that you can look at. Some of it may be a little confusing, but just bear with me. Boolean is gonna ask you what object do you want to trim out of your shape. And there's a little eyedropper here. If I click on that eyedropper, I can go here and I can say, I want this cylinder cut out of it. And you can see with this orange line that outlines the shape of our car, it has done that. It is going around the curve of that cylinder. There's only one problem. You'd think, oh, I'll move my cylinder out now. Where did my cut go? I wanted that there. Don't worry, we can fix this. If we want the cut to stay there, even if the object moves, we have to apply the modifier. Basically like flattening a layer in Photoshop. So if I click on this arrow here, one of my options is apply. I'm gonna click that. Now, when I move that cylinder, let's move it back. Look at that, look at that. I told you this was exciting. I'm excited. So I'm gonna move this cylinder over to where I think the other tire will go, probably about there. I'm gonna click on the car. I'm gonna add another modifier. I'm gonna go to generate, and I'm gonna go to Boolean again. We're gonna do the same exact thing. So we grab our eyedropper tool. What do we wanna cut out? This cylinder. And then we go to this arrow and we're going to apply it, and there we go. Now I'm gonna select this cylinder. I'm gonna hit X to delete it, hit OK, and there we go. We have cut that shape out of this car. Pretty darn cool. Now I can take this wheel and I could just slide it into place, That looks about right. Oh yeah, we've got a wheel in a car perfectly placed. So what we could do is just hit Shift D and duplicate this tire and move it all around, but no. We gotta use more modifiers because the more you learn about modifiers, the cooler Blender gets. So we're gonna use a modifier called Array. So let's click Add Modifier, go to Generate, and then click Array. Now you can see it's added a second tire under our main tire. So what Array does is it allows us to add how many of something we want to reproduce over and over again. So this is 6 of them. I don't need 6. I only need 2 tires for now. Right now, it's on the x-axis. I'm going to set that to 0 because I want this on my y-axis. Let's set that to 1. And there you can see the tire is now appearing behind the main tire. I need to move that back to the other tire well. And so we're going to do that by looking at this little field here where we can type in numbers. I'm going to hit 3. Where does that put us? That puts us pretty darn close. Let's click on our gizmo so we can see this a little bit better. I'm going to say 3.2. That was too much. Let's go 3.09. Now your car is going to be a little different, so you're going to have to kind of go in there and fudge it a little bit, but that's pretty much how you do it. There we go. We got wheels there. We are done with our car. Okay, we need to put wheels on the other side too. That's not cool. Well, the wheels on that side look good. So let's go ahead and apply that transform. Little arrow down here, apply, just like we did with the Boolean. Now, let's select those tires again. We're going to use another modifier. This one is in Generate, and it's called Mirror, and it's going to mirror our tires. Now, if you first select it, you can't really see anything, and it depends on the axis that you're using. So, for example, if I select the y-axis, you can see a tire appeared over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to unselect the x-axis. So what our tire is trying to figure out is where it should mirror to. Right now it's mirroring on itself. We want it to mirror on the car. So see this little field here, mirror object. We're going to grab our eyedropper tool and we're going to select the car to say we want it to mirror to that. Then we're going to make sure it's on the right axis. I'm going to hit X. There we go. And we have wheels. Look at that. We got wheels. So what we have here is the core of our car. And it's time to add some details. I want to add some rear view mirrors, maybe a bumper. So let's go ahead and do that. Shift A to add a shape. We're going to go to mesh and then we're going to go down to a cube. Now let's start with a bumper. So I'm just going to pull this out to the front. It's an okay width. So we're going to hit scale and then Z and let's make it a bumper height and we'll just kind of guess it here. Hit S to scale it again. Then we're going to hit Y and we're just going to make it a lot shorter. Maybe kind of like that. There we go, and I'm gonna make it a touch wider, S, X, and we'll just pull it out a little bit. And now I'm gonna move it into place. We'll see how that looks, and I'm gonna just kind of pull it in like that, and maybe I put it down here, closer to the bottom of the car, kind of like that. Now I want that bumper to be a little closer to that wheel, so I'm gonna pull it in, and then I'm gonna hit S again. We're gonna scale it on the Y. I'm gonna pull it out just a tiny bit, kind of like that. Maybe I push it out. There we go. This is where it gets fiddly, and modeling is kind of fun, where you just move things around, try different sizes. I'm gonna hit Shift D on that shape. I'm just gonna click so it stays in place, then grab my green arrow to just pull it all the way back, and this will also serve as our back bumper as well. I also want to add some rear view mirrors, so let's go ahead and hit Shift A to add a shape. We go to mesh, and we're just gonna start again with a cube. Let's pull this out and hit S for scale, and we're just gonna make it really tiny. Maybe we hit S again, and on our Z axis, because I want it to be a skinnier cube. Maybe we also change our Y, so we hit S, and we change our Y axis a little bit, and that looks rear view mirror-ish. So let's kind of move it close to the side of our car. This is a low poly car, so I'm okay with it being kind of boxy, but I don't want it to be just a box. So let's hit tab to go into edit mode. I'm going to just grab these 2 points and I'm going to pull that back a little bit. Maybe I grab these 2 points and I pull them up a little bit to make this thing a little bit aerodynamic. I'm going to grab these 2 points and move them down a little bit. You kind of see where I'm going with this. I'm trying to make this a little less boxy. In fact, I think it's sticks out a little more than I want it to. So this is just the area where I like to fiddle and I like to figure out what looks good with the model. Now I also want to attach this to the car. To do that, I'm just going to use another cube. Now I am still in edit mode. One of the cool things is if I hit Shift A, go ahead and add a cube in edit mode, and then we'll move it out here, hit S to scale. This cube is now part of the same shape. What does that mean? Well, if I have tab and I go back to object mode, now you can see this is just one shape, both of those cubes at the same time. I'm going to tab back into edit mode and I'm just going to move this into place. Maybe get it there, maybe move it back. And now I can mirror that on the other side the same way that I did with the wheels. Now I'm in object mode. I go over here to add modifier, generate, mirror. I use my little eyedropper tool and I select the car. That's what I want it mirrored to. And there we go. It just mirrors because X is already selected over here on the side. What else do I want to add? I'm going to just add some simple door handles. Shift A, because this is just going to start with a mesh, then a cube. Move the cube out, scale it on down so it's teeny tiny. There we go. I want it to be wider, so we're going to scale it on the Y-axis to be a little bit wider, kind of door handle width. There we go. And then we just move it into place, boop, on the side of our car so it just sticks out a little bit. And there we go. Move it up here, move it up here. There we go. That kind of looks like a door handle position. This is a one-door car. And then we're going to add a modifier here too. We select it, add modifier, generate, go to mirror, eyedropper tool, select the car, and guess what? We got a door handle on the other side too, same location. So that is looking pretty close to good. I still want to fiddle with the shape a little bit. I'm going to tab into edit mode for my car, and I'm just going to make a couple quick tweaks. For example, I want this to go down a little bit. You see that on cars, they kind of slant. Maybe I pull this back a little bit, make it look like an 80s car. Maybe I grab the entire front plate and I say I for inset, and then I zoom in a little bit, and then we extrude and we pull in a little bit. Sweet. Now I maybe want to add some blocks that I'm going to use as headlights. Shift A, mesh, cube, insert, pull it on out of there. S for scale. Let's knock that thing down. There we go. We're going to move it over to the side. Maybe we scale it down again. Maybe something like that for our headlight. Maybe we scale X to make it a little bit wider. And then maybe we push it way in. So it's kind of sitting under the bumper a little bit, but it's kind of sticking out. That's cool. Add modifier, generate, mirror, eyedropper to select the object, select our car, and it just goes into place. Beautiful. That is looking good. Okay, so let's take a quick break and go back to these little icons in the upper right-hand corner of our screen. We already talked about the wireframe icon that lets us see all our lines. We're using the solid version here. There's also this. This is viewport shading, which is just going to show you your colors. So if you just want to see flat colors on your object, you can do that. We have no colors, so we're just white. But then we have this third one here, and this is your rendered view. And this is actually using a renderer to show you what your car is going to look like. So one of the things I love about Blender is that like clay looking feel that you get with some of just the basic renders. So let's go to our options here. One of this is our render tab, which is this little camera icon. It's like the back of a camera icon. Our default rendering engine in this dropdown is Eevee. And that's cool, but my favorite one is Cycles. I just think Cycles looks a lot better. The problem with Cycles as you pan around is if you're on a laptop or a computer that doesn't have really great hardware, is you're gonna hear the fan in your computer spit up pretty fast. This is really processor intense. I have a GPU in my computer, so I'm gonna select this dropdown and I'm gonna go from my CPU to my GPU. You don't have to do that, but that if you do have a gaming computer or something with a graphics card, that's gonna help you. I also am going to add something to this. So I'm gonna hit Shift A, gonna go to Mesh, and we're gonna add a plane. Now you can't really see it because it's inside our car, so we'll hit S to scale and we'll just grow it up really big, and you can see it's smack dab in the middle of our car. That's fine. If I scroll out, there are some other things that come with every new Blender file that you create. There is a camera, and there is this little thing. This is a light. Now your basic light source is not that exciting, but we can move it around just like we could move anything else, and you're gonna see your shadows move. And you guessed it, on the right hand side, there is a tab. It's called Data. And it's going to let us choose what features we want our light to have. So right now it is a point of light, which is fine, but I like area lights. So I'm gonna hit on area in my tab, and here I can select the direction that area light is going in. I'm just gonna have it face straight down. And then maybe for my size, I set it to 10 by 10. And that gives me this nice soft color look that I think looks really, really good. I'm gonna take that plane, I'm gonna move it down so that my car just kind of sitting on it. Yeah, this is what I was going for. I'm gonna go ahead and scale that plane up even more. So now we have that nice clay model build. Now Blender has a section with nodes and all sorts of rendering options, really, really cool stuff, but that section can start to overwhelm you, so we're gonna keep it dead simple. I'm gonna change my view here to material preview. I'm gonna select that plane my car is sitting on, and on my sidebar, I'm gonna go to this little world icon that says material. We're gonna just do some bare bone basic materials, but you can do a lot here. So first of all, there's no material assigned to this right now, so I'm gonna click on new, and see here we can change our base color, and we can change a whole bunch of stuff about it. We're just gonna color some things. So I'm gonna have this sit on grass, so I'm gonna select like a greenish color, and then I'm gonna move down the brightness of this on the side a little bit. And I'm gonna do this with all my objects. I'm gonna grab my tires, I'm gonna click new, I'm gonna grab that color, and I want a gray. So I'm just gonna drag down on that brightness slider a little bit to get those to be gray. I'm gonna grab the car itself. We're gonna make that blue. I'm gonna tap on the color. I'm gonna move this over to blue. I'm gonna drag the slider down a little bit to make it a little bit darker of a blue, maybe kind of towards here. And the thing about materials, like our layers, we can tap on that, and I can call this car blue. So if I want to use that elsewhere, for example, these rear view mirrors, I want to be the same blue. What I can do is, instead of hitting new, I can click on this little drop down menu next to new, and I could just grab one of the materials that already exists, like my car blue. And then if I change that blue anywhere, it's gonna change everywhere. Let's go back to our render image, and we can see how this is starting to look. It's starting to look kind of cool. I'm gonna click on my car again, and we're gonna play around a little bit, because that's just changing the base color, and we can do some neat things with that, but you're gonna see some of the options. For example, underneath base color, it says metallic. If I scrub that up, I can make that car look kind of shiny. I can also reduce the roughness, which makes it super shiny, probably too shiny. So we'll kind of move the roughness up, because if you think about it, cars have flecks inside the paint. Also, our car is one object, and we want different parts of the car to be different colors. I don't want the windshield to be the same shade of blue. So I'm gonna hit tab to go to edit mode. I'm gonna select a face. For example, I'll select that face. And this gets a little bit tricky, but I think you got this. So where it says car blue, if we change just that face to say green, it's gonna change the whole thing. That is not what we want. So let's go back to car blue. What we want is we want to click this plus button. That's going to let us add more than one material to this object. I'm gonna click new, and now I'm just gonna select a dark gray for my windshield, and I'm gonna move the roughness way down because I want it to be kind of shiny like glass. While I'm here, I'm gonna go and call that windshield. And the next thing I wanna do is there's a button here called assign, and that will assign this color to this plane. So I'll click that. Now when I click off, you can see that it's a different color. If I grab this plane, select windshield over on the right hand side, click assign, I've assigned it there. Back windshield, click that color, hit assign. This side window over here, click the right color, hit assign. And you can see from this angle, we even are getting a little bit of reflection sometimes of the rear view mirror, of the hood of the car. I'm really digging that. I'm gonna leave this area. There's one more color I wanna do, which is the bumper. Let's go ahead and hit new. This is metallic, so I'm gonna go ahead and scrub that up. And then this is just gonna be a light gray. So we'll just go with a light gray, metal bumper. That looks all right. I'm also going to select our door handles, and instead of creating a new thing, I'm just gonna go here and I'm gonna grab the material I made for our bumper. Another tab over here on the side is world, and our background is gray. You see that here in the surface panel. So if I tap on that, I can actually make the world lighter by rising that up. And what that's gonna do is that's actually gonna change all the lighting for the whole scene. So maybe you don't want it lit all the way up, but I do like to turn that up a little bit, just to add a little bit more light to the world. Since our car is done, I'm gonna stop here. Even though we could just keep going and keep going and keep going. But just by adding objects, changing their shape, changing their size, extruding parts of them, you can do all sorts of things. Here's a sample car I made for this tutorial to walk you through it, and I built a whole scene. And basically, if you look at this stuff, this tree is just a cylinder. I added some loop cuts to the middle, and then I scaled it and moved around the points a little bit. That's a trunk. The trees themselves, what the heck are those? If I hit Shift A and go down here to mesh, there's something called an icosphere. This is what an icosphere looks like. That's it. I'll scale it up. There we go. That is what my tree is made of. My rocks and everything. And then I added some icospheres in the front of my camera so that when we actually rendered out this scene, there'd be some foreground elements, some background elements. I added this blue pane in the sky, and I put a light on it to add like a little gradient in there. All of this is dead simple. But if you can do this with just dead simple objects, just imagine what you could do with Blender when you start diving in and learning the other elements. I hope this helped. I tried to make it as simple as possible. Let me know in the comments what would make this easier or if this helped you at all. And I'd like to thank the members and Patreon supporters who make this channel possible. It's a bit of an experiment for me, making more videos for this channel. I'm trying to make it work. And so that support is huge. Also, I want to shout out my course, Learn to Draw in 60 Days. That's another way I support this channel. So if you're looking to get into art and illustration, that is a beginner's course that I would recommend. There's links for that below in the description. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video.